Hi everybody, thank you so much for being here today. I'm David Walde with the Democratic Socialists of America. We're really excited to announce our endorsement for Ross Mittiga. This is one of our first national endorsements of the year. I'm really excited also to have people coming all the way from Richmond and DC, just reflects how excited DSA members are to support our friend and member Ross. This is a very fitting day to do this endorsement. We've had some good news yesterday that Chwake Lumumba won, which shows increasing victories for socialists across the country, but this is also the day that the American Health Care Act passed the Congress, which shows we still have a lot of work to do. So we really need candidates like Ross out there who are going to be thinking every day about their constituents. Ross especially is great on the issues that DSA cares deeply about, such as workers' rights, including the Fight for 15, the environmental issues such as fighting the Atlantic Coastal Pipeline, and also working for tuition-free higher education. And we really respect that Ross heard Bernie's call to run for office, and we really are ecstatic that he will do this. We're really going to put all our national support behind him, but part of that comes from our local members who will be doing the calls and helping to canvass for Ross, and I want to introduce one of them. This is Emily Cohn-Miller from Charlottesville, PA.
Hi. So I can't say that I was surprised when I read last week that according to a recent Washington Post poll, 68% of Americans think that the Democratic Party is out of touch with concerns of people like them. That includes 44% of Democrats. I wasn't surprised because I'm one of the 44%. A Democratic voter who thinks that David Toscano, our incumbent Democratic delegate to the General Assembly, is out of touch. He seems bewildered or irritated when ordinary voters tell him what we know about the world, that the planet is in crisis, that our democracy is in crisis, that our people are in crisis. Lucky for us, in our safe blue district, we have a choice this year to vote for Ross Mittiga. Someone who understands the emergencies around us. Climate change, corporate money and politics, the widening inequality between rich and poor. If we keep voting for the same people into office, we shouldn't be surprised when we get the same results. The only way to get a better government is to elect better representatives. That is why I'm supporting Ross Mittiga for delegate, because he knows what is wrong with the world and will fight to fix it. Thanks.
I'm Michael with the Charlottesville DSA chapter. I think particularly on a week like this, it's good to have an event like this, a week where Dominion Power has gloated about what they think is the inevitability of constructing the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, a week where Aetna has pulled out of the Obamacare exchange in Virginia because it wasn't profitable enough for them, and of course on a day like this when Republicans in the House voted to take away health insurance for millions of Americans. And I think, a race like this is so important because, on a week like this, you can't make excuses anymore. We're under assault from our government, and the Democratic Party has failed to protect us from the most radical, dangerous, and unpopular Republican Party in this country's history. And you look at the state of Virginia, Democrats, the past 3 statewide elections, they won, but they won with less than 50% of the vote. They've lost the state house. They've lost so many seats in the state house that the clerk of the house can just ignore the governor's vetoes. They don't even have to override it. They can just ignore it. They've lost the state Senate. They've lost the state Supreme Court. Lower than that, they've been decimated in city council, board of supervisors, Commonwealth's attorney, sheriffs, across the board. The Democratic Party of Virginia's message and strategy has failed. And I think it's campaigns like this that offer us a perfect opportunity to challenge the corporate establishment of the Democratic Party, to say enough is enough. The Democratic Party has to embrace movements like Black Lives Matter, Fight for 15, anti-pipeline resistance, and we have a perfect opportunity to challenge the corporate establishment of the Democratic Party of Virginia, push it in a new direction, and empower citizens here to fight back against climate change and the corporate takeover of our government. Challenge our system of mass incarceration, abolish the prison industrial complex, abolish cash bail, and really invigorate our democracy here in Virginia. So it's great that everyone's out here. Thank you. And Hannah Beeman is next volunteer with Ross.
It feels really good to be here and to be supporting and celebrating my teacher, Ross Mittiga. And it's kind of funny, Ross has a really bold, visionary platform filled with the sort of ideas that feel necessary in our current social, economic, and political and environmental situation. And it's really exciting and it's really refreshing. But the reason I'm supporting Ross is that I've sat in his classroom for Political Theory 101, and I know that the compassion and intelligence that's reflected in his platform comes from his heart and soul as a teacher. And Ross was really an incredible teacher, truly among the best I've ever had, and I've spent 16 years in Virginia public schools. I've had a lot of good teachers. But Ross's openness to ideas and his earnest consideration and negotiation of conflicting viewpoints pushed us as students to be more open to challenge and more graceful in navigating tension. His eagerness to know every student in the room as a person with a story opened us to getting to know each other, to building a community in that small classroom. In sum, his teaching made me a better student and a better person. Now, as Ross bravely and enthusiastically takes on the delegacy, something new and terrifically difficult, as he confidently walks the political talk that he has studied and taught for years, he is giving me energy and inspiration again. He is once more a teacher and a role model. He is infecting everyone around him with his vision and spirit, and he is paving the way for a new generation of progressive leaders. As a person, in all of his everyday acts, whether it's baking vegan cookies for his volunteers or preparing his students for an exam via an online chat session after school hours, Ross embodies the openness, honesty, kindness, boldness, and willing enthusiasm to tackle difficult problems that he brings to his political vision. He feels the urgency of the climate crisis, the suffering of economic injustice and racist criminalization, and the betrayal of a political system that prioritizes the votes of money over those of people. His commitment to confronting these problems, to taking the democratic values seriously, is internal and unwavering. I've seen him join me and hundreds of fellow Virginians in the Richmond streets, demanding political accountability in Virginia's response to the climate crisis. I have no doubt that he is unafraid to disrupt the status quo in Richmond, but I also know he will do so with poise, eloquence, and respect. It goes without saying that Ross is but a small player in his own vision. He's willing to take personal political risks for the sake of that vision and throw his all into supporting others that are taking it seriously and lifting it. He encourages his young, idealistic campaign volunteers to get involved in politics themselves. Ross's vision is collaborative, it is compassionate, and it is creative. It is a vision of deliberative democracy that centers neighbors, communities, love, and honesty. It is a vision of Democratic Party that means something. It's one thing to study politics in a classroom, but it's quite another to put in the work to realize your ideas on the political stage. And in the past months, Ross has been relentlessly working and writing and listening and developing his platform in response to input from people without the insidious nudge of corporate money. Ross's willingness to be daring and vulnerable, to put his embodied ideals on the line, is magnetic. In his campaign, Ross is role modeling, and more than anything, he is teaching. I am encouraged to actively defend the future I want and need. He is teaching me to try new things, to get involved, to be passionate, to learn from my community, and to put my ideas to the test. Having Ross Mittiga as a teacher made my peers and I better students. Having Ross Mittiga as a delegate will make all of us better citizens and Virginia a better state. Thank you.
I don't know how to follow that up. That was just so incredibly generous, and it's very moving. Thank you so much, Hannah. Thanks also to David, Michael, Emily, DSA, you folks over there, you folks behind me. I really appreciate it. I'm very proud to accept the endorsement of one of the largest progressive organizations in the country, and one that's fighting for a fairer, more compassionate, and I think it's worth stressing, more effective way of doing politics. I think there's a lot of confusion right now about what it means to be a Democratic Socialist, but to be fair, there's also a whole lot of confusion about what it means to be a Democrat. Now, I can't resolve this confusion right here, right now, but I can tell you what I stand for, and I can tell you what our campaign is fighting for. Our campaign is fighting for equality over oligarchy. And for us, that's not just a distant legislative goal. We want to get big money out of Virginia politics, so we're running a 100% small donor funded campaign, 100% volunteer powered campaign. For us, what it means to be a Democrat, maybe what it means to be a Democratic Socialist, we're fighting for freedom over exploitation. We think that workers should enjoy more of the wealth that they create, and that's why I'm calling for a $15 an hour minimum wage, paid family and sick leave, greater protections for workers and workplace organizers, and the end of a so-called right-to-work legislation. Now, to be clear, these are not radical ideas. We see them at work already in California, New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Washington, Oregon, Connecticut, Massachusetts, DC, and across the world. This is not radical stuff here. Now, we're also fighting for diversity and inclusion over xenophobia and racism.
Yes.
Now, to be clear, diversity and inclusion for us are not strategies to mobilize target demographics. They're not abstract standards of political correctness that we feel ourselves moved to meet, or any way that they're so cynically put. For us, diversity and inclusion are essential preconditions of a free, fair, and representative politics. And our commitment to diversity and inclusion is behind our call for nonpartisan redistricting, for same-day and automatic voter registration, for universal vote by mail, for electoral forms like those in Maine that would end the tyranny of a two-party system, expand the franchise, and bring people and different viewpoints into the fold. Again, this is not radical politics. These are not radical ideas. What is radical, in my view, is that the view that two parties can say all that needs to be said in a country of some 350 million people, or that a General Assembly composed overwhelmingly of old, rich, Christian, white men can faithfully represent the will of a state as economically, racially, religiously, and sexually diverse as Virginia.
Yeah.
What we're fighting for, thank you, is education and opportunity over ignorance and hopelessness. We believe that teachers should get raises at least as much as police officers, which is not the case here in Virginia. We want to end charter schools and the new segregation that charter schools represent. We want to get rid of standardized testing. We want universal pre-K. We want tuition-free public colleges and universities, at least for working families, and we want a real debt relief program for students. The average student in Virginia comes out $30,000 in debt. We don't need that. We can there's better systems out there. We're fighting for it, thank you. We're fighting for fairness over injustice and inequity. That's why we care about reforming the criminal justice system, which for far too long has punished people for the simple crime of being of a different color or being poor. We can do better than that, and we have to do better than that.
Indeed.
We want, on this note, to end the moral obscenity that is for-profit prisons, the whole prison industrial complex. We want to shut down the school-to-prison pipeline. We want to end harsh sentencing laws for young people and nonviolent offenders. We want to legalize, regulate, and tax marijuana. We want to start treating addiction as it is, which is an illness and not a crime.
Yeah.
Now, fighting for fairness and equality for us also means fighting for a healthcare system that does not allocate resources or services on the basis of wealth, but that on the basis of need. Expanding Medicaid is a start. It's certainly better than the situation that we have today with 24 million people being kicked off healthcare, potentially. But we must move forward to a full, universal, single-payer, Medicare-for-all healthcare system. That, to be clear, is not just the most just system, it's the most cost-effective and the most effective system. Again, not radical ideas, the rest of the world does that, we can do that. Now finally, what we're fighting for is a living and sustainable economy rather than an economy of death and extraction. We want to end factory farms. Sounds crazy, but we didn't have factory farms 70 years ago, and they're a major source of pollution, a major source of ethical violations for both animals and workers, and a major driver of climate change. We want to get rid of them. We want to halt all new fossil fuels, all new fossil fuel infrastructure, including especially Dominion's 2 fracked gas pipelines that my opponent does not have the courage to oppose. But importantly, now we're finding out not only is it bad for the environment, as we all long knew, not only bad for farmers, they're seizing farmland, especially in historically African American and poor communities. Not only is it plan to just drive right through the Allegheny Plain. Now we just recently found out they're gonna have to blow up 38 miles of mountaintops and bald those mountains to build these pipelines. And we're fooling ourselves if we think that Dominion's not going to let those pipelines go before they wring every cent they can out of them, which means we're committing not only ourselves, but our children, potentially our grandchildren, to pipelines that will, by all accounts, at least, at minimum, double our carbon footprint, but potentially triple our carbon footprint. We can do better than that. There's plans out there right now, solutionsproject.org, peer-reviewed plans for transitioning Virginia to 100% clean and renewable energy by 2030, and in the process, create 147,000 new jobs with basically no increases in cost per kilowatt hour for the average consumer.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it, right? We can. I'd rather those 147,000 jobs than the 39 permanent jobs Dominion thinks the pipeline will build, or however many temporary jobs will come from the oil spills that are inevitable when you build pipelines on eroding mountains. Now, people might say that everything I've just said is idealistic, but we should keep in mind that that same kind of complaint has been put forward against universal education, against an 8-hour workday, against the universal franchise. So the point is here, not whether something's idealistic or non-idealistic. My view is that these ideas are worth fighting for, and I fight for them in full confidence that one day, perhaps before long, these ideas we realize because what we have is a force more powerful than individualism. We have a force more powerful than desire. We have a force more powerful than greed. What we have here on the left is solidarity. When we stand together as a people, united, against fear, against greed, apathy, and exploitation, we will not be defeated. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, good way. Thank you. Appreciate it.